Now, for today's episode, I invited my old roommate, Vincent. We actually used to live my second year in Nelson. For all you DU heads out there who know where Nelson is, um, he was my old roommate. We touched on sports, touched on his travel abroad experience, and so forth. But I think with these past two episodes with Aubrey and Vincent, we kind of really show what the conversations that happen in at least in our dorm room, and the way they kind of played out. Um, and I've been told by some other people that also were hanging out in our dorm room as well, that they they very much see the resemblance of the podcast and of episodes have a very similar format as to how we used to hang out in our dorm rooms. But nevertheless, let's get this show on the road, and I hope you guys can enjoy us, not only on YouTube but also on Spotify. I'm trying to work on my Spotify numbers and try and get those up. So if you care about me, if you know me, go ahead and start using Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And I'm going to start uploading them on Apple Podcasts as well, so that we can give as many listeners an opportunity to, listen to what types of stories are going on around here on campus and here at DU. Because, I'm really just here to have a good time and get to know as many people as I can. Yeah, let's get into the episode. We're live.
All right, let's do it.
So this is going up on the... Oh, it feels so good. I honestly love this couch when I have the opportunity to sit on it.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, I bet you feel the same way. You're just like going from class to class, making dinner, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah, I'm out and about, and then I lay on my bed at night. I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm supposed to be.
And then now on your couch, you don't even have a couch anymore. That's property of Mabine now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's been living on the couch. Like last week, he was there Wednesday through Saturday. I don't know. He'll probably be there tonight, but yeah, I mean, you know how he is. He doesn't really sleep until 4 a.m., 5 a.m. He sleeps until like 3.
And then he's like, hey, we should do something until like 4 in the morning. I'm like, bruh, no.
Dude, I'm asleep right now.
yeah.
Wake up and text him back.
Yeah. No, I bet it's rough though, like having your own space and then having to go back to the house. Well, I mean, he's not back, but.
Yeah, I mean, as in like because he lives at home, like. Yeah, I definitely think it's been an adjustment for him.
The freedom, I bet. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's definitely more of like when we're here on campus, it's more of like okay, let's just go do things. Whereas with him, like where he's at being at home, it's more like, all right, let me see what I can do to get out. Kind of thing. Yeah. But I mean, he's been around quite a bit this quarter, so I think he's definitely balancing it well. Although always wish he was around more.
Yeah, we need to get him back on the RA job because I think he does a really good job for RA because he just knows so many people and then he can get people in touch with a lot of different things.
Yeah, they didn't I think it's really interesting because he's very well connected, as you said, and he was a really good RA on the basis of like everyone in the his residents really liked being with him. So I think that's really interesting. But yeah, hopefully something opens up and we can get him on campus.
Would you ever consider doing an RA job?
No, it's just I don't know. I was like having heard the stories from everyone, including like my freshman year RA. I was just like, I can't be in charge of people like that. In terms of like where I'm sleeping is also where I'm working. Like, because with an RA job, like
that is true. I never thought of that. What if you were to say like after you graduate and then you work at a firm? It's like, okay, you get paid this this amount of money, but you have to live in the office. Like that's right. Weird. That's weird.
I don't know. I always feel like I'm a big fan of like having a gap between the space that you work in and the space that you sleep in.
Yeah.
And this year it's a little bit different. I've definitely been working, or like since January, I've definitely been working more in my room just because of convenience. And honestly, like if it's cold, like I'm not trying to walk to the library or something like that. But
because there's the farther commute compared to, us being on Nelson and then going to the library. That's a 5-minute walk. You can bear the cold for that. But
yeah,
versus now it's Vista, right?
That's Vista, yeah.
it's like a 10 to 15 minute walk, right?
Yeah, and it's like if it's in the middle of the day, if I'm already on campus and I just want to pop in to do some work, it's a great spot to go.
Yeah.
But in the evenings, I mean, I don't know if you remember last year, but I would be in the library until midnight or so, because I would just pop over there like after tennis or after we're all done hanging out for a bit, and I'd just be in there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, like late in the evening, and I'm just like, I'm over that. Like, I don't want to be walking back to Vista at midnight. Not that it's like, I'll be fine, but it's just, I think having my own room plays a big factor in that, which is like,
a bigger room too, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I want to see if I could get a picture of your guys' room and then compare it to ours. I'll see if I can find one and I'll show it to the video. But if not, dude, that you got screwed over horribly.
It was just like weird because
it was a weird like configuration. You had to have it only one way. There was no other way the furniture would fit.
Yeah.
Or else the doors wouldn't close.
The slanted wall, like what is that?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like your room was a rectangle. Jacob and Aubrey had a rectangle, and then we had like 6 walls that were not in the shape of anything like resembling a nice shape at all. Yeah.
So now you're liking I'm bet you love your place now, your own bathroom, your own space, everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the idea of like being able to wake up and just shower when I want, like, I know that was a big thing in the morning. Like, we'd all be racing for the shower, or, like I said, I can just turn my light off or keep it on. Like, it's just kind of like I don't have that certain level of courtesy of having a roommate. And I think like anyone in the world, like if you told them like you have the best roommate, they're the cleanest, they keep to themselves, like they're a fun person to be around, they're like anything, they would still rather choose like having their own room versus having a roommate who, like a stellar roommate, you still want your own room. I feel like it's like coming into college, I'd never had my own, like I'd always had my own space. I'd never had a roommate.
That's true.
Obviously being an only child.
And
so
I was similar the same way. And I still got my own space. I was lucky enough to have Joe,
Yeah.
Shout out to my boy Joe. I haven't seen him in a while. I might send him a text.
For sure.
But shout out to Joe. I mean, I really got my own space, like complete control.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Yeah.
So I never really had to deal with, sharing the space or being courteous. And like there was times when he came back and stuff, but most of the times I was just being, with the noise. That's what you guys would call me out on. Like, hey, turn it down. It's 11 at night, dog.
Yeah, and like we just like knock on your wall or something.
Yeah, and I'd be like, okay.
Big speaker that was blasting and stuff like that. But no, I mean our living situation last year, like looking back on it, it was dope, bro. Like,
it was.
It was like weird. Nelson's obviously weird because it's less communal. Like, you're talking to people on your floor, kind of thing. But we had a good group. Obviously, it was 5 of us most of the time. But that space of like the hallway space, we utilized that well. Like, and it was one of those where we really utilized what we were given. So I was really happy with that for sure.
Yeah, and now we're actually hanging out. Well, you guys are hanging out more than me, but I still come around. I still try to make a presence because it's fun to be around.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, definitely, it's a little bit of different interactions because we're not all living in Nelson or Nelson Nagel or even like Towers. I mean, right, I was on 3rd floor of Towers. You guys were on 4th floor. Which,
you still come up,
still come up. But when I finally did like make the step up and be like, all right, I'm just gonna go start hanging out. Like, I mean, literally, you guys would live on the floor with each other. I was 1 floor below. In Nelson, we were kind of spread out in the building, but it's 1 elevator right away.
That's so crazy to think of. We were in COVID college. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't know. I look around now and I'm like, these freshmen are just like running around. They're like, I was like, you have no idea what I went through when I got here.
Yeah. We had to go get tested every 2 weeks.
Well, I was when they had the swab too. So they'd be sticking that little bit of it's not wood. It's like
it's like a little Q-tip.
Yeah, the little Q-tip up your nose every 2 weeks.
And it's not little either. It's just huge.
Yeah. So, but once I got the spit test going, I felt like it was better because
it's a lot easier. A lot easier for sure.
I was like, yeah, I'll spit in a tube, whatever. But getting the Q-tip up my nose, I was just every time I'd be like,
dude, what a throwback! Like that, it should have been. This is a throwback Friday, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just like weird to think about, like. I don't know. I think it played a big role in like how our college experience kind of developed, right? Like, obviously, you started off in PLP, ended up dropping early on, but like in a normal PLP year, if you drop PLP, like they move you off the floor, basically. Like,
really?
Yeah, that's what they were talking about, and I was just like, whoa, because I mean, if you
What
think
if
about
what if you were to think about that, like, right? Like, what if I dropped it and then the next week they're like, all right, you gotta back up your shit. You're going to JMac. Like, hurry up.
like we would not be talking right
I would
now.
not be in Washington. We would not, you know.
It's like a path in life, and because of that, it literally just set us on the track now, which is like, yeah, obviously it was like in terms of COVID and like what we went through. Obviously, like we're lucky to have been in a situation where DU kept things relatively open,
Yeah.
kept us safe, but also, I mean, if we hadn't gone down that path, like I wouldn't be on your podcast right now,
Yeah.
right? Like we wouldn't, like honestly, our circles would be different most likely.
Definitely,
Like,
most definitely. Like, I think I would be. I honestly, and I've always talked to Aubrey about this, but I still feel like it's really hard to make like a really close circle, and I bet, you know, coming from Kathleen side or, you know, commuter side, it gets difficult when you don't live on campus and you're not seeing the people like for at least a whole year.
yeah,
And then you can't make those, you know, those strong connections. And obviously, you just have to invite people in. But if I were not to live with y'all, like first or second year, and I would have done something else, I would have like felt weird. I would have felt like, because I think there's enough weirdness, kind of amalgamation in the group with, you know, you PLP,
yeah.
that it's like it's just such an odd, strange configuration. It's just like, okay, like
I mean, it's
nothing makes sense, but we're all
I
here.
think
for
Mubin
some-
said it's like the sitcom friend group, like
yeah,
those
yeah.
are, like people from all walks of life and like places and different.
And
like,
it's a
interests,
big
but
group too. Like
There's what 16 people in the
it
group. chat?
continues to
Like,
grow
what the
now.
hell?
Yeah. Because it used to just be like, and obviously people have gone and changed and like left. Because I remember we used to hang out with Ben. Remember Ben?
Like RA Ben.
Yeah, no. Ben, Bin, I guess.
Bin.
Bin.
Yeah.
We used to do the poker and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. And like he's still around, obviously, but
Mhm.
groups evolve. People meet new people. I mean, it's definitely kind of. I mean, that's like I think the saying's always like your first week friends in college aren't going to be your friends for the whole time. But I mean, I've definitely seen that in different aspects, which is like some people are friends with those people. Like their freshman year roommate through the end of time, basically, like they're best friends. And, you know, people choose their own paths. And that's, I mean, I think that's the beauty of this experience too, which is like, you know, everyone's just doing their own thing, but then we're all together. I think, I don't know, I think like back to high
You know what I love the most is that we still travel. Like the trips that Jacob planned. Shout out to Jacob.
Yeah.
He does all the work. Like, or even now, I think it's Amalia doing the brunt, right? Or who's planning
It's
it?
definitely like a mix of like Olivia, I'm in there a little bit, Marguerite's there.
So like doing those, because I've noticed it the same with a lot of people that I know. Someone just needs to do the planning, and then everyone will hop on.
yeah,
Someone's got to do the hard work to plan it out. But
for sure.
after on, everyone will jump on, and it's fun. Like
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
and I heard from everyone that you guys loved the video when you guys were all mad at me
All right.
for filming at like showing up to the gate and stuff.
No, I
But-
just thought that was funny because like the camera would always be out. And we're just like, dude, what is going on? Like, what is
Yeah.
this? What is going on? And
But-
then I recently like I watched the video that you made from Washington, the full 16 minutes, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
like that is
Yeah.
like the experience encapsulated in 16 minutes, and it's like. Yeah, you can look at a photo, you can look at a short video clip, but when you put it all together and mesh it together, it really, I was very impressed with
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
No, and
looks
it
good.
was a lot of fun. You know, I remember editing all of that video in the hotel when I
Mm.
used to work at the hotel.
Oh, yes.
Because it was like midnight, nobody was there, and I was like, all right, time to do some editing, man.
Yeah.
But now that I noticed, now that I have this new computer, dude, it took ages with that
I'm sure.
old
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah. I
You
remember
notice-
you would get the equipment from Anderson, the
Uh-huh,
library.
yeah.
Yeah. And obviously like the nice thing with the DU accounts now is like we have access to the Adobe suite.
Which is, it's kind of weird now because we get all the Adobe suite, right? But now they're still paying someone to maintain all of the equipment, which we still need the equipment, but we don't need those computers, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think those will eventually phase it, but I mean they're Macs. Like
They're great computers,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
They're
sure.
great computers.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like not a lot of people either aren't interested in it, don't know that it's there. I don't know what it is, but it's always empty. Every time I go there, it's empty.
I mean, I'll be plugging them like on my tours, right? I'll be giving a tour and be like, hey, you know, like
Yeah, because you guys have to go through the Anderson.
yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
be sitting like kind of in the front lobby, and I'll be like, all right, this is the multimedia center, like you can check out equipment here. They have editing Macs in there, but also just so you know, like we have access to the Adobe suite. So
Yeah.
it's not like you always are going to have to be in this physical space. But I do think there's something to be said for the physical space, right? Like
Yeah.
I think like some people's laptops they work, but they're not.
But
like,
they're not. Yeah, they're not
like,
capable
right?
of
Like
it.
you got this nice Mac here,
Mhm.
but my laptop can probably run it. But there's definitely people who come in and they're
Yeah.
just like, this is my device for like writing essays.
But then here's
and
that thing.
note-taking.
Here's that thing that we were talking about first. It's like, do you want to leave the comfort of your home and have to go all the way to the Anderson Acton
Right,
Cummings
right.
from a specific time, which it makes it a little difficult. But now if you just really just get in touch with all the resources that it is there, like MFJS, bro, they want people in there,
yeah.
and they have some of the best computers, like top of the line, like desktops.
yeah.
And the drives, everything free of use. Just ask. You just gotta ask. Like, hey, let me in, or even ask one of the students. Like they'll let you in because it's open all weekend.
right.
You
Yeah.
just need the DUID. That's
yeah.
it.
No, I mean, there's a lot of resources around campus, a lot of free stuff around, and like people forget, like we pay for this, man. Like,
Yes.
like all this
yes.
stuff, like yeah, it's free, but like somewhere along the way, you definitely paid for it, either through tuition, fees.
I'm still trying to figure out like all the you know which one I want to, and probably Kathleen can help me with this, but like the DU entrepreneurship, dude. Have you heard of that? Like the Shack.
Yeah.
I want to go and check it out and see like what. There's some programs that they do.
The
That's like
garage.
the garage. That's what they
Yeah.
call it. Because I think they even do like a internship or like a program where a grant. It's a grant where you can make a team and then you can propose this thing and then you get the money, and then you can
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Exactly.
do this. man.
Yeah, I think the garage serves more as like a physical workspace. It's
Yeah.
not. I think Ben Schwartz is involved with it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, I actually got to do an interview of a DU alum. He has this brand called Law. His name is
Dalton Badula.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah.
He actually started in there and then, brought it out. But dude, really nice jackets, like super dope.
I remember seeing some stuff about that because he graduated last year, right?
Yeah, this year
Or
actually.
like
this last
like in the fall.
in the fall.
Okay, cool.
In August.
But no, I remember seeing like a bunch of his content out on social media, like Instagram, and I was like,
Dude, he's a Daniels too.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
He's just super chill.
yeah, he's a cool guy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't really know him, but I know. I watched like 10 minutes of your podcast with him, and then just in general, like that idea of like being in that realm and doing your entrepreneurship, being in that creative space is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's take a little break. I'm gonna put some music. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode. As always, like and follow on the Instagram. We have an Instagram page. We also have a Spotify, which hopefully we can get some of you beautiful listeners on our Spotify airwaves.
There we go.
And yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot of work to maintain a lot of those pages, but another quick reminder is that now we're going to start doing clips. So if you check on the YouTube page and if you want to just show your friends or if you want to show anyone about the work that we're doing here at the LWH Studios, there's going to be short clips that you can show. And if you want to just do a deep dive of the work that I've been doing for the past 4 months, you can check out those pages and do a deep dive under that. So every Wednesday clips come out. And every Sunday, full episodes come out. So just stay reminded on that. But let's go to our guest today. We have Vincent. Big shout out to my boy Vincent.
Okay.
He was the one who always supported me when I started doing, Serap. If you guys are old school listeners or if you are, know about the game and what I've been doing for a long time, Serap was one of my first YouTube channels that I really wanted to start. And then from there, me and Vincent started talking about his own endeavors when he started his own podcast. In pandemic year with some of his homeboys and his baseball team, I believe.
Yeah.
But real good guy. And actually, I just want to shout out, congrats on finally being a master's student. Such a young age, dude.
Appreciate it, bro.
That's huge. That's huge. And when you told me, I was like, holy crap! Like, you're only 20.
20, yeah.
And you're already a master's student.
Yeah, I mean, very grateful to have been at this point, and my educational path has really helped me with that, and yeah, it's exciting. I'm about 5 weeks into my first coursework here at the Corbell School of International Studies, pursuing. So I'm still finishing up my undergrad, but concurrently I'm taking master's courses, looking right now at a degree in international studies with a focus in development. But yeah, I appreciate it, bro. It's
dude, that's huge. That's like a big accomplishment.
It's been. I mean, there's definitely a difference. You can tell. I mean, the classes meet less frequently. So traditionally, we have 2 hours twice a week. So 4 hours total. These master's classes, they meet once a week for 3 hours.
Okay.
So Tuesdays I have one from 9 to 12. Wednesdays 9 to 12.
Do you find that there's more engagement in the students that are in the master's program? Like they'll actually do the readings, they'll actually do all this stuff, because I find it quite often in my undergraduate classes. Oh, you did the reading? Oh shit, I didn't even do it. People either they forget or whatever, but the engagement in the actual classes is just not very high when it comes to assignments and stuff like that. Do you find it the same in master's program or no?
I mean, so one of my master's classes has like 6 students only.
Oh,
so there's 6 of us, and like if you don't do the readings in that class, like everyone's gonna know, and the professor's
it's
gonna
be
know, right?
awkward.
Like you got to get it done, kind of thing. Like, and like relatively, like if you do 2 of the readings really well and you skim it, like you can definitely tell like if people have skimmed it, which is fine. Like the professor for that class is super cool too, because he's like, there's a recognition that if we're doing 100 pages of reading a week, there's no way you're retaining every single page of information. The other class I'm taking on Wednesdays has like 24 people in it. You can hide in that class a little bit. I definitely have talked to some people where they're like, I didn't even touch school this weekend. But I mean, by and large, I would say the engagement's higher. I think the way I look at it is like people kind of, more than an undergraduate degree, they have to choose to be there, right? Like, like
it's a choice after, and especially when you're paying that amount of money and you go into those courses, you're like, oh, all right, I actually I want to do something in this field, and I want to, make something out of it.
And that isn't to say like always like with an undergraduate degree, like everyone in the world has to go to college, but like traditionally, like it's a very traditional path to go to get a 4-year degree as an undergrad. But I'd also like to give a shout out to like, community college system is really strong. I mean, I was grateful enough or lucky enough to be able to take courses concurrently while I was in high school at a community college. So that's what really set me up to this point where I'm 20 years old taking master's courses. But, I have friends who are pursuing their journeyman's, like looking to be electricians, and they're doing really well for themselves.
My homeboy, he's actually doing those electric gates that you find at like storage units and
for sure.
He's gonna start taking courses to weld and put in the motors for those, because there's not a lot of companies that do it out here in Colorado.
For sure.
So there's also other schools that you can go into, which is always a thing that I'm always I'm just happy that people will do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't have to be college.
Yeah, and I definitely and that's where I'm saying like, but especially I feel like to the upper level of the grad courses, like people are definitely choosing to be there, and like I think there's some people in my courses who graduated undergrad this year or like 2022. Now they started the academic year 2022, 2023 here in Denver. They came from another school. But then there's other people who are like, there's one guy in my class, he's like mid 40s, still active duty Air Force. He's trained to be a professor at the Air Force Academy in the spring. So U.S. Air Force was like, all right, you got to go take this class. I don't know if he told us it's not classified, but,
you didn't give a name, so
no, I won't bait him out. But,
it's Sergeant O'Malley.
Not quite.
No, I made that name.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really interesting because he's talking to the professor like, oh, how are your kids doing? And I'm just like,
it's definitely a different dynamic now. Yeah, because even with my professors, I still talk to them like, because bro, I've had like my managers now for the stuff that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I'm advertising an internship right now for Spanish speakers and all this stuff.
Okay, very cool.
Here on campus, and these are like professors here on campus, and I bet if I would have started like a year ago or maybe even 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I gotta talk a certain way, you know. Like now it's like, oh, okay, you know. I think we're all people, obviously.
Yeah,
I gotta respect them. Obviously, they did more schooling than me, or you know, they have a higher, you know, title than me. But at the end of the day,
I mean, we all go home and shower at the end of the night, right? Like,
exactly.
like I don't know,
and
like,
I
that's a
think-
weird way of putting it, but like at the end of the day, we're all human.
And
right?
I think that's what has helped me to be really personable with a lot of my professors, which I don't see from many other students. And maybe it's just my own ignorance that I'm not seeing it. But I think, you know, if, you know, undergrads really want to perform a little bit better, or they want to kind of just shine a better light on them, on their own work, is just being personable with the professors, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, the professors want to talk to you. Like, I mean, they're required to have office hours. I think people tend to forget that, which is like, professors have to have office hours. Like, if you pop in there one time, like more than likely than not, they'll remember you and they'll appreciate that more. I mean, even if it's just to ask like one question, or you're, you know, pursuing an internship or something, you just want some advice. Like, there's so many opportunities. That
Internships is huge.
Yeah.
They'll vouch for you if you reach out. Oh yeah, but
yeah, and people just aren't willing to do that because they're like, no, like I don't know, like I'm intimidated by my professor, and like definitely some of them are intimidating people. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, you look at their resume and you're like, okay, like,
yeah.
But then if you like step back for a second, like, okay, they're also a person, like,
And plus, you're not supposed to know everything. You haven't done everything.
right?
in the
Exactly.
damn world.
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely the value of that.
But all right, let's get away from school.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a big achievement. That's a big
Appreciate
part
it,
of our
bro.
lives.
Yeah.
Good job. You know,
Appreciate it.
A-okay. Now, how's your team doing, Leeds? How are they doing on the table?
I think they're sitting like 15th right now, but the way the Premier League is like kind of at the stage right now is they're only 1 point above the relegation zone. So 17th is.
So you're right
Bournemouth.
with Everton. Everton's
So,
down there.
yeah, I mean Everton looks bad right now though.
They're,
Like,
yeah, it's terrible, dude.
yeah. Everton is.
Thank God we just got rid of Lampard, I think, as a coach.
Yeah, it's sad because you know Frank Lampard is like a really
He's a legend.
legend, but
But
as a coach,
not there yet.
Yeah.
Not
I
there
mean,
yet.
I think he needs to go spend some time somewhere else.
He
and
needs
just,
a little seasoning.
yeah, build it up.
You know, Rafa Marquez is like coaching the U18s at Barca,
Yeah, like
which is cool. Like,
yeah.
and we're all like, I was talking to it with my boy. We're like, dude, is that the next Mexico coach? Like,
Could be, yeah.
dude, legend to a coach. That would be awesome. But I feel like he just needs a little more seasoning, a little more spice added on there, which is a great
Yeah.
program over there with Barcelona, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Legendary coaching history, you know. Which
Yeah,
I would love to see that. That would be awesome.
yeah. But yeah, Leeds are hanging out down there with the, you know, the lower teams in the league, but they're also not too far off from like a mid-table or even like top 10 finish. I think because of the World Cup break, obviously, it's like it's still early in the season. Like we're just like getting to the halfway point of games, even though we're traditionally would be well beyond that point. I say with like this, I guess it was like a month, 5 week long break for the World Cup. I mean, that's a big gap in a season. You probably are missing 5, 6, even 7 games in that time period. But yeah, Leeds are doing really good. Well, not really good. They're doing okay, but they had a really good transfer window. They brought in Weston McKennie from the U.S. men's national team.
Damn.
So the midfield is actually right now Tyler
Red,
Adams.
white, and blues
Yeah,
is coming in.
yeah. They call it Leeds United States of Leeds. Leeds United States of Soccer. Like
When you were in Spain, did you ever catch a game, Leeds, or no?
yeah. So I was actually able to get up to Leeds for a game in.
Hell yeah, dude! I bet
yeah.
that was bad. Did you get any memorabilia or a jersey from there?
So this hoodie that I'm wearing right now.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, and I also got a
always
jersey
say that
day.
if you go to somewhere you really love, like concert, anything,
You got to get.
you got to get something. You got to
Yeah,
come back
no, I
with
just
it.
kind of closed my eyes and just spent the money.
Yeah,
I got a jersey
exactly.
there. I got this hoodie. I got a little game day scarf. It was also cold, so I was like,
Yeah,
I need this.
you
Like
need
it was
it.
a practical thing as well. but yeah, so I was able to get up to Leeds in the first weekend of November.
Okay, so hold on. Before you start explaining that, just as a preface, you were studying in Spain?
In Madrid, yeah.
In Madrid.
Yeah, I can do a whole rundown of that.
And when did you leave? In 2022 August or?
So I left from the States September 12th, got to Madrid September 13th, 2022.
So just around the same time the quarter started.
Yeah, so literally like the day I got there, or the day I left was the day classes were starting here in Denver. Yeah.
And how long did it take for you to start classes? Like 2-3 days, or you got there and it was like
go so time? We had a week of like orientation, like getting used to be there, and then September 19th, my birthday actually was the first day of classes in Madrid.
Dang.
Which was, I mean, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like, oh, it's the first day of school, but it's the first day of school in
a different country.
It's a totally different experience. The classes are not up to like, I mean, they're meant for students to travel.
That's what I've heard. That it's a lot easier.
Yeah,
the course load or the workload is a lot easier.
Yeah, I found it to be. I mean, it was definitely more like, yeah, you have to take some classes while you're here, but like, go look at the Royal Palace of Spain. Go travel somewhere on the weekends, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say was the highlight of the whole trip? Like, what was the thing that is like when you think back, like as of right now? Because I'm guessing over time you'll start to think back and be like, oh yeah, I did that. But just overall, like right now, if you're to think back of it, what was the highlight of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so. In the first week in October, I got to go to Morocco for 5 days.
Okay.
And in that time, one day we rode camels in the Sahara Desert. Like that's like a life kind of bucket list moment that.
You were like the have you ever read The Alchemist?
No, I haven't.
No?
No.
Oh, I need to get you a copy. It's such a good book.
For sure.
And I've read it in Spanish and in English.
Okay.
So it's like a really well-known book by Paulo Coelho. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
I mean, I've heard of it.
Yeah. And you just have those moments where he's looking out in the Sahara and he's just sitting there and he's like,
yeah,
such beauty.
Yeah,
and you got to see that, dog.
Yeah, no, I remember sitting on a sand dune and like we got up to see the sunrise and it was just like sand everywhere, right? And it was like, if you think about it, it's an ancient ocean, so that used to all be covered in water, and now it's just like an ocean of sand. Every direction you look, sand.
Jeez.
And the dunes, like some of them are really big, like you know,
like steep.
Yeah, steep, like 100+ feet. But yeah, I mean that, like when I like think about study abroad, I'm like, okay, if I had to say one moment that was like the moment, riding a camel in the Sahara Desert, there's nothing like it, to be honest.
We can't get you any more film cameras though. I was looking back at that video and I don't know if you saw the last like minute or so. I caught the last minute
of that
camera where you're like, how does this thing work?
Yeah.
And you're like trying to flip it and you just put it back in your pocket.
So the story with that is basically we had the disposables, right? And I was taking the camera, and then we were on Eby's Landing spring break last year.
Was it Eby's Landing?
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Whidbey Island, Washington.
Yeah.
And they have this like kelp forest there, and I started like swinging the kelp over my head. And as I'm spinning around, I like threw it in the ocean, and you can just...
Well, because your pocket was open, so when you were moving around, I'm guessing,
just like the force, it just started moving around, it just popped out.
It just popped out, and then the waves probably caught it.
Yeah, so, well, hopefully someone found it. That's what I like to think. I hope I didn't pollute the ocean. But
I mean...
It's okay.
It happened. There was not it wasn't your intention to do it.
Absolutely.
But that shit was funny.
It was hilarious. Like, I was just like,
you only took one picture.
Yeah, and it was like of the coastline.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I feel like with disposable cameras, like film cameras, I'm more likely like I want to take pictures of people with them. Versus like with that, I was just like, let's see how this works. And I took a picture of the landscape. I was like, I took a picture of the landscape on my iPhone. That it looks. But I think there's something to be said for getting those photos back. Like we got them back in what, like...
Well, I need to, before I forget, we need to put your picture up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are all the guests, dude.
Oh, okay.
So we need to take a picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Aubrey's is right there. I don't know if you saw it, but that's the new thing I want to do. Not only is this, trying to create a career out of this, but this is like memories too. Like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm going to be able to take that with me forever.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Super cool.
But okay, and I've always said this about you. You are like the wizard of sports, and it seems like if there's a new sport, you're on it.
Yeah.
Have you checked out the Kings League?
I've seen some of what's going on with it, and I'm just like confused. to be
Really?
honest. Well, so PK obviously is like
Yeah.
spearheading it, but and I saw some stuff about the rules, and it's like
It's very wacky.
it's like 5-a-side, and
Yeah.
it's just like chaotic basically.
And there's like a certain my friend was explaining it to me when we were up in the cabin, and he's like, yeah, this is really cool. You know, there's like certain cards that they can use at certain points of the game that teams can, you know, add another player, unlimited subs. I think is it 7 or 5? I think it's 7v7.
Yeah, yeah, something like
And then what happens is like the way they start the game is that you start on your side of the goal, like where you score,
Right.
and you have to run to the ball in the middle.
yeah.
Which I don't know. It's a fun, you know, it's obviously gonna attract people to just
I mean, I think
Watch a new sport.
Aguero's playing there, right? Like,
yeah.
and you know
He
he
played
can't,
one.
yeah.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, I thought this motherfucker was like not able to play, like 'cause it
Yeah,
was heart
but I
condition.
suppose it's like because like the field's not like massive.
It's not,
like,
yeah.
it's like a different like kind of strain. It's also a very like low pressure environment in
Yeah.
my opinion, right? Like
there's not a big audience. I don't even think there is a big audience, like an audience present.
yeah, I mean I think that's interesting though. Is like
It's all Twitch. It's all
it's
through Twitch.
It's that influencer realm of sports that we see more and more, which is like I don't know. If you think of like influencer boxing, influencer MMA, influencer like pro-am golf, like
But here's the thing: it pays out more because you like. Let's say we start this thing. Like, let's say we're PK, right?
yeah,
We start broadcasting our own sports, and we're in control of where it's gonna go. So all that money is gonna come directly to us,
Yeah.
and we can put it directly into the game. Versus, you know, being a team in the Premier League, you have to go through the broadcasters, like
yeah.
you know, NBC or what are the other ones like?
NBC, I mean, they're partnered with USA, but like that's in the US, so you got to think like Sky Sports,
BN, all
BN
those.
Sports, like all the European.
You have to go through
broadcasters.
them. You have to pay them to cover it, and then they distribute it, and then
right?
you get a cut out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because I'm not sure how the Premier League does it, but I took a class on like the business of sports in Spain, or like, and so we were doing a La Liga case study, and so.
Okay.
Around 2011, 2012, La Liga, they started kind of negotiating the TV rights as a league rather than on a team by team basis.
Ah,
So that's when you look at like revenue sharing, it's like kind of a competitive balance factor. So I'm not sure, but like when you think about that, is like the money's always being redistributed. If you're not the team, like if you're not the only source or route that the money's coming to, it's always being redistributed either to the league, to other teams even. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's a big animal that I've never, you know, because now I've got to start looking into that how those big things do it,
yeah.
how those big, you know, distributors do it, so I can kind of take and pick some things out on how I can do it. Obviously not at a grand
Yeah, I mean,
scale, but just, you know.
I think there's a lot to be said for the digital platform though, the streaming service.
Mhm.
Right, I think of DAZN. You know, they cover all the
That's
Canelo
right.
fights.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I mean, I would love to talk about this.
It's all pay per view. Yeah.
Right, but the weird thing with DAZN is in 2019 they were marketing themselves as the end of pay per view. Like you pay $20 a month, you get to stream, you know, whatever. So
Yeah.
So the way it started was basically, or the way I kind of picked up on it is Anthony Joshua, former 2-time heavyweight champion of the world.
And DAZN is mainly just for boxing, MMA, and
So they cover, sometimes they cover like Bellator, I think. So like
Okay.
a different MMA promotion than UFC.
okay.
And then they like their big thing is like darts, and then they are like a soccer broadcaster in some other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But you know their model, they partnered with Matchroom Boxing, and so this is a whole business kind of discussion about boxing. But so in 2019 they started going big. So they had Anthony Joshua on their platform, and so in first week in July, Anthony Joshua gets knocked out in the 7th round by Andy Ruiz Jr. Total
Okay,
unexpected, right?
And that was when everyone's like, "Yeah, it's Fat Boy season."
Right. Yeah. You know, he's like, and it was a totally unexpected thing. He wasn't like, you know, you look at Anthony Joshua, he's an Adonis, man. He's 6'7", sculpted to the brim. Like hasn't eaten an ounce of sugar in 6 months, right?
And then you look at Andy Ruiz and he's like, yeah, that food was at the carne asada last weekend with the Modelo.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
just to put it in perspective.
But the thing is, Ruiz, his hands are fast, so if he can get dug in, his hands are lightning quick. That's that's how he was able to do it, because he got knocked down by Joshua, and Joshua said, I'm gonna knock him out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Joshua, in that same round, third round,
Ruiz came back,
knocked Joshua down, and Joshua was in a bad place, and by the seventh round he was done. But that's where I kind of like, that's where DAZN started coming in. And then if you look at, if we're speaking of streaming services like influencer boxing, I think of like the KSI Logan Paul fight that happened in November 2019,
streamed on DAZN.
The rematch between.
So then,
go ahead. Yeah.
So then how the DAZN works. Is it still that same subscription? Because I know when we watched Canelo, we had to pay.
Yeah, it was such a mess. So that's what I was saying. So they were supposed to be the end of pay-per-view, and then they decided somewhere along the way that they were going to have certain gold events that, in addition to having the $20 a month subscription,
you would have to pay
60 pay-per-views. So they looking back to
little
2019, they definitely changed their business model, which, if you're the exclusive home of something, you kind of have to take advantage of it. Yeah. I think it sucks basically, because I don't want to be paying $80 to watch a fight.
Exactly. For one fight.
Yeah. But I love the streaming service model of it, because it was like, I remember in November 2019, we watched Kovalev Canelo. Canelo knocks him out to become people say he poached the belt from light heavyweight, but he got the belt from there. And then the next weekend was KSI Logan Paul. That was on the same $20 subscription. 2 nights of really good boxing. Or, KSI Logan Paul is maybe not the highest quality boxing, but it's an entertaining event.
Yeah.
And so now we see where boxing has gone.
What you could do now, and this is the first time I did it, and I actually, it's funny that you mention it. When Canelo fought, who was it? When he went up a weight class and he fought, it was back.
Are you saying when he lost?
Yeah.
Bivol. Dimitri Bivol.
That was the first time I went to a bar and watched it. So I didn't even have to pay anything. All I bought was a couple beers.
Yeah.
All you need to do next time, so you don't have to buy the pay-per-view, go to like those big bars. Dave & Buster's, B-Dubs. Yeah. B-Dubs, I know it gets a little packed, but I would say like Dave & Buster's, especially the one here on University.
Yeah.
No, Colorado, I mean.
Sorry. Yeah, Colorado, yeah.
Colorado, you go there, you buy a drink or two, and you stay like 2-3 hours. Bro, you get the whole fight for like $12.
Yeah, you can't beat that. And it's an environment too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get to talk to a bunch of people and stuff like that. But DAZN, I really did like it when we saw the Canelo fight and all that. And it was like, dude, there's so many streaming services now that it's really hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's interesting with like, I don't know, I have a Fire TV in my room, and it's like I have all these different like streaming services, but
do you have the time to watch it?
I do still enjoy watching sports, so I try and like on NFL Sunday watch games and like things like that. But I'm not. I'm a busy. I'm not. I haven't quite got the time to always just be watching sports, but it's always be part of my interests. So yeah.
And where did that start? Where did the start of just like? Because for me, it's always been a challenge to sit down. I don't know if I have something, like I want to just be out and about or something. I don't know. But like, even when my brother used to watch La Liga, or Liga MX.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but nah, I kind of want to do something else, or I kind of want to do,
Yeah, I think like looking back, like I'll hear people talking about like, did you watch this show on Disney? What about this show on Cartoon Network? And I'm like, nah,
you were watching sports.
I was watching Sports Center. Okay. I was watching.
What about your dad? Is he a big sports head?
I think. He always liked soccer. Like growing up in Nepal, that was kind of what they felt.
And it's such a universal sport,
right?
And now, and it's true that here in the U.S. we think, football is like the thing, but when you go to other countries, Asian countries, you start seeing like cricket.
Yeah, dude, NFL doesn't mean anything to those people.
Exactly. Yeah. And then when you go to like, I saw this a lot in New York. People were wearing sick ass jerseys, and I was like, "Yo, what's that jersey?" And it's like, "Oh, this is a cricket team."
Yeah.
I was like, "Damn."
Yeah,
homie.
Cricket is the second biggest sport in the world, and it's just kind of like in the U.S. It's just like, well, we have baseball, and don't get me wrong, like
baseball's
I love baseball.
Yeah.
Like baseball is my favorite sport, but if you watch cricket and like if you understand at least somewhat what's going on, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I would say like, you know, I know of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's you know, it draws some of the biggest crowds in the world. Like,
And it has a lot of history too.
it has the whole stretch of like from, I mean, it's former British colonies, right? So
Yeah,
if you think
yeah.
of like Australia, New Zealand, into India, Pakistan, obviously England, Scotland. You know, those are the main players. South Africa, those are the main players in the cricket world. But I mean, it's everything there, right? Like what I think, like the third most followed athlete in the world behind Ronaldo and Messi is a cricket player from India, right? Like,
Shit.
like we kind of just in the U.S. I think we
Disregard
have this,
it.
yeah, we just kind of like, oh, or like you hear people with this World Cup. I mean, I was obviously in Spain, but even in the lead up, we're like, I don't know, like who cares about soccer, man? It's like, well, 1.3 billion people watch the
Yeah.
final concurrently. Like you talk about an event that unites people, the World Cup,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. And then you don't see any, and I saw some posts like that, like you don't see any people fighting out here. You know, we're all here to have a good time. And dude, I really would have loved to go to Qatar. Well, now we get the
Yeah.
opportunity to go to, you know,
Yeah.
hopefully, and even if I have to travel and tailgate, I'll go and tailgate.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is like being based in the U.S. Like we'll be fine. I think I'm curious to see how the international fans handle it because in Europe, if it's hosted in Europe, you can just drive or train to the next location.
Yeah.
In Qatar, everything was in Doha. Like
Yeah.
literally, like there were people who went to every single World Cup match this year.
Jeez.
I mean, obviously, because like the third group stage game is played concurrently with the other, so they had to like leave at halftime. But they went to every single World
Well, yeah,
Cup
it's
game.
just like the actual commissioner of FIFA. He would go to every single game,
yeah,
right?
This is Infantino. He's an interesting guy, but
Yeah, he didn't look like he was enjoying any games at all.
He's an interesting human. That's all I'll say about that.
Jeff
but,
Bezos.
Yeah, he's a mix of something, right?
Right? He looks like a Jeff Bezos.
yeah, he's an interesting human. But you know, I'm curious. Like when people get here, they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna road trip from
Good
Atlanta
luck.
to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey." It's like that's a 11 hour drive. Like, yeah, it's in the same region of the U.S. I mean, the East Coast basically, but you're not doing
So
that
now,
easily.
now that you have your experience from Madrid, and now that you live here, and or that you've lived here, it's a lot easier to travel in Europe,
oh, yeah.
going from country to country.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spain's a little different because Southern Europe functions and Spain itself functions a little differently because it is a little bit more, not detached, obviously it's also detached, but it is a little bit more, it's not Central Europe where everything is like right there. Spain is a little bit, it's connected to
It's
France,
southern, yeah.
Portugal, and then, there's a small enclave, Andorra, which sits between France and Spain, but it's not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a big ski town right there in
Yeah,
Andorra,
and
right?
it's
super
basically
cool.
just a ski resort. Like
Yeah.
the country is a ski resort.
That's what my brother, not my brother, my coach was telling me. He's like, dude, check out Andorra. It's the
Yeah.
Aspen of Spain.
Yeah,
right?
And it's its own country, but it's basically just. I mean, I wasn't able to get out there. Just, I mean, so busy. But
Yeah,
my understanding of it is like the country is basically a ski resort.
Mhm.
It's not huge. It's in the mountains, but
yeah.
it's a very wealthy country. Because of that, because of the industry.
People that travel there and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
but I mean, I took a train 3 hours to Barcelona, train to Sevilla. There was a train option to Bilbao in the north of Spain, the Basque Country. I ended up taking a flight because the flight was the same price and it was like 45 minutes versus 4 hours. Right. But I mean, like flights are cheap. Ryanair is a great option. Every country has their own airline that does its best to keep prices down. I mean, I think the transportation system in Europe as a whole just functions differently than the U.S. I think.
Because here we have the highways. Yes, we're all connected, but when we were in Washington, we were like, dude, you have to be in the car for 4 hours to go to the next place.
And this upcoming trip to Arizona, like we're driving 11 hours to Flagstaff, right?
Exactly.
And then we still have to drive an hour and a half to the Grand Canyon, 2 hours down to Phoenix area to watch the baseball game. You know, it's like
Well,
the US is
in
just,
Flagstaff, that's where all the games are. Well, at least the Colorado Rockies. That's where they're in Flagstaff, and the Diamondbacks.
they're in Scottsdale.
You're right.
Scottsdale.
You're right.
Yeah. So that's like a
You're right.
suburb of Phoenix. Pretty much all
You're
the
right.
spring training games are going to be around the Phoenix area. But I mean, Flagstaff is kind of the gateway to. So I was
Right off
there,
the 101, and
yeah,
I was
it's
checking
actually,
that.
I think it's on Route 66. Actually, I don't know if you're You know, you
no.
know Route 66.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I
I'm
haven't
pretty
looked
sure
at
it's
the
on
map.
Route 66.
Because I was checking out this map my brother was showing me, where they have like just little graphics of where kind of roughly the all the training grounds are for. White Sox is right next to the Dodgers.
Right.
The Mariners are like, a couple miles away from all that.
It's like what the World Cup looked like in
Yeah,
Qatar,
yeah.
right? All the stadiums
It's
are in
super
the Phoenix
cool.
area,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why you'll see like split squad days in spring training where they'll maybe have a team of more veteran guys playing one team and more like prospect, like AA, single A guys playing at a different
Yeah.
location. Because, yeah, you have a training base in Scottsdale, Goodyear. Goodyear's where we're going to go watch the game.
Oh, okay.
Rockies Guardians. So that's the Guardians facility, Cleveland Guardians. But we'll be going to their facility. It's a 45-minute drive from the Rockies facility. It's not far at all. I mean, that's the basis of what spring training is. It's easy to get around. But even you think like that, like if you go 45 minutes in Europe on a train, you're in another country potentially. You're definitely
a
in
whole
another
different
place,
culture
right?
and stuff.
Whereas like if I drive 45 minutes north, I'm
Colorado Springs.
or
And
south, right. Like if I drive 2 hours north from here, I'm in Wyoming. But like Cheyenne is there, and then what's there?
Yeah.
Casper, and then Yellowstone.
And Casper's 4 hours away from Cheyenne.
Right. I mean, our country is a very, very spread out country compared
Yes.
to anything in Europe, right? Like,
And now, doesn't that make sense why we kind of have different views on a lot of different shit? Like,
yeah.
because
yeah,
we
for
are
sure.
so disconnected from each other that,
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean,
I think that's a good important, like a very important thing where you can say like, oh, you Americans, you guys are always fighting about everything. It was like, dude, we're so far apart from each other.
Yeah, geographically, I mean, the wideness of this country. If you look at, I don't know, we were in Ireland last year, or not last year, 2021,
Traveling man.
something like that. Very, very grateful, obviously.
Yeah.
Very, very lucky. And the guy was like, when I think of America, I really see 4 different countries. You got the South, the East,
Yeah.
the Center, and then the West Coast kind of vibe.
Sawed it.
Exactly right. But I'm like, even within that, like, technically, right, Colorado's considered being part of like the West.
Midwest, yeah.
But like, I don't know. I see the mountain region as being something different too. Like, or
Mhm.
maybe that's just me wanting our state to be unique as well.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But I think like you said, there's pockets of culture, and so
Yeah.
you
head north, it's more Midwest. It's more like rugged and doing your own kind of
cattle
stuff.
farming, things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And like we'll do our own stuff. But then you head more south and it's like, oh, we're a little more West Coast, like I don't know, that's my feeling.
like as you get
Denver
into,
down.
Yeah, if you look at like the Southwest kind of angle, I mean, definitely, it's like you said, like it makes sense that there's a wide variety of views in this country because people experience different lives. Whereas, like, okay, for example, in the UK, London is a huge city, but then if you go up to Leeds, where I was at, the people they all relatively experience the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think of different, like I was actually, when I went up to Leeds for that game, I was in Scotland the night or the day before in Edinburgh, and like that was a little bit of a different experience because Edinburgh, Scotland was its own country, which was then taken over by the time the English, who created the United Kingdom, later incorporating Wales and Northern Ireland. But there's still a unique identity that is like, we are Scottish. They have a different accent. They view issues differently, but it's still, I mean, still in the same area. But then as you go down into England, and I didn't see, like, I'd been to London twice before, and then I was in Leeds, and it was like, I could definitely tell I was still in the same place.
Yeah.
Accent was different, but it was still like the infrastructure, the stores, that kind of thing, like, was the same. Because I went to Leeds one weekend, first weekend in November, and then I went to London to visit Mubin and Grant the next weekend, and it was like, yeah, we were all out there, dude. But it was an interesting experience, which is like, what is the idea of a European identity? Or like, I took a class on cinema, and it was like, is there a European identity? And it was like, I think the same kind of uniqueness that you see in Europe between country to country, you see in the U.S. in different regions.
Yeah. And it's
a geographic difference,
and
too.
it's the same thing when you ask that same question. What is the true American?
Right.
What does that look like? Like, your parents are both American, but they're
Well, I mean, my dad's an immigrant, right? Like,
yeah,
my dad
exactly.
but he's an American citizen.
But he's an American citizen,
Right.
so that's the thing. Is he gonna be drinking, Budweiser and driving a Ford truck? No, that's not.
He does drive a Ford.
Well, we got one part. We got one part, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he's not fitting into all these. And the same thing with my parents. They're both American,
Right.
but they
like,
have that history of coming from Mexico, and
yeah.
the culture is just different. It's like, there is no
Yeah, and I think
real
like
American.
yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to see like that was a big difference I saw is like in Europe it was just like there was an idea of Spanish identity and a longing for the past where like if you think of like the Spanish Empire, which is just riddled with colonization and exploitation.
Yeah.
But if you look back in the history of Spain, it was like that was their moment. That was when they were the big time, was when they had their colonies. And now, I mean, Spain was really nice, but it's not the same level of world power that it once was, right?
Aren't they struggling like economically?
Yeah, the economy is. I mean, it's a southern. So there's like a gap between like Northern Europe and Southern Europe, where it's like Spain, Greece, Italy. Even they've definitely faced financial struggles, and they've had to be bailed out by the EU and things like that.
Shit.
But I mean, definitely like Spain's struggling. So I think it's like we don't even have that history here in the U.S. of looking back 500 years. Like that's when.
That is true. Yeah, we're a very young
like
country.
as the United States of America, we
200 years, right?
200. I think we're coming up on 250 years, right?
Yeah.
Like about in a few years, but it's just a difference in experience, and I think that was something I really noticed. It was like people view things differently in Europe. And
did it help you in any way? Do you think?
Like study abroad in general, or
yeah, like just the way they think over there. Did it help you in any way to? I don't know. In any way.
I mean, I think
because I can't speak on your experience. I can't say it helped you in one way because I didn't go. Right?
For sure. I think it. I mean, definitely like my Spanish improved. It's still way.
Oh, sí?
Un poco sí.
Yeah.
Necesito más, pero más o menos.
Ahí la llevas. Ahí la llevas.
But yeah, I mean, Spanish definitely improved, but I think it helped me understand that the viewpoints of the world, right? So one day I was in Spain. The next day I was in Morocco, and Morocco and Spain, even Spain is maybe one of the poorer European countries, is much more developed than Morocco per se. But Moroccan culture is still very strong. People have pride in that. They have pride in the way things are there.
And a big part of the Southern culture is kind of that Moroccan culture as well, because the Moorish, Andalusia, all that used to be heavily,
I mean, the architecture is
it's so beautiful.
I mean, God. So yeah, I was able to go to the Alhambra y Alcázar in Sevilla, Granada, Sevilla.
Yeah.
And I mean, intricate, like literally, like you see like
and
the detail.
They don't have the tools that we have now, dude.
Yeah.
All the power tools.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's what amazes me. Every single time I see pictures, I'm like,
yeah, and it's handcrafted, right? And it's like
still standing.
And it could stand for many, 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 many more years, and it's insane. I mean, it's like nothing on earth, to be honest, in terms of the architecture. And it's like, so that's why they had such a presence in the Iberian Peninsula for 700 plus years, because they rooted themselves there, and it took a huge effort from the Catholics of Spain to actually so-called take back the peninsula, if we're going to use that vocabulary. But yeah, I mean, the south of Spain, wow, it's different from the north. Bilbao, for example, is an isolated region in the Basque Country, so not more and more they have like traditional Spanish, but a lot of it functions on Euskera, the Basque language, which is it's literally an isolated language. Like it pretty much has no linguistic ties to almost any language on earth. And that's because of the way the tribes situated themselves in the mountains in the north, in the Basque Country. They were isolated. It was hard to conquer them. They never
they ran their shit.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't it's just interesting. It was interesting to see, because it was like, but when I got there, I was like, this is still an international city. Like I spent a weekend in Bilbao, and I was like, this is still an international city. But then I was like walking down the road, and there was a guy playing some music and singing in the language, and I was like, whoa, like this is entirely different from anything I've ever heard. And I think that's really interesting. And I think it's the nature of like understanding the idea of the experience of people is different. And it's important to recognize that when we are going through life is the main thing I took away. Yeah.
So now that you had this opportunity, and I think you really like history in general. Like,
Yeah.
dude, when you were over there, were you just like, dude, all this not like I just want to stay here and learn as much as possible about the history and the culture? Did you ever feel like that? Because I think that would be. I wouldn't even want to hang out with American students if I was there. I'd be like, dude, like, look at all this stuff. I want to find out all the stories that are here.
Yeah, I think, you know,
Like, just think about it. Like,
yeah.
if you were me and I would go to Spain, I would bring the podcast out there, and every week I'd ask a local to come in, and
Yeah.
that would be my that
No,
would be
and
the
that's, like,
dream.
that would be the way to do it. I would say the nature of our program made it a little bit hard to even meet Spanish students and Spanish, like, because we would go to the university and they'd be like, okay, this is the main campus. You guys are welcome to go to the library, get food here, hang out here. You don't go to class here, though. You go to class in this other building, which is right next to it. But this is where all the international students go. So we had class with mostly Americans and some Germans. Basically, they're on this program called Erasmus. So they do like an exchange, education exchange with another country in the EU. And actually, they get paid while they do it. So
oh dang,
it was a whole thing. And Erasmus is a really cool program. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those where I was like, I want to experience the culture, but I also just like want to go travel with people.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
I only did a few solo trips, but the solo trips were really cool. It was also cool, like, when people from our friend group met up in Madrid, we met up in London,
yeah.
met up in Copenhagen. So I do think there's multiple aspects of reading into the culture, looking into the culture, but also
Because at the end of the day, I think this experience is gonna be yours. Yeah, obviously you gotta have a good time with the people around you, but
yeah, I mean, I did my own thing, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
that's good. That's good to hear.
I went to Sevilla on my own because I was just like, I want to see it. Like,
Yeah,
and everyone else was kind of like, meh, meh. Like, I don't know if we're gonna make it out there. And I was like, okay, it's gonna happen. Like, I'm doing it.
I'm boosted.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
out.
And I literally went there for 24 hours. Like,
Hell yeah.
I got a train.
That's what I love. That's
Yeah.
what I love to hear.
I got a train. I think it was like December 7th in the evening.
Uh-huh.
Spent the night there in a hostel. Woke up December 8th. Spent all day there. Took a train back that evening, and I was back in Madrid.
Fuck.
But it
Class
was
is
like-
the next day. No, I'm just.
I think no, it was like one of those. It was a weird week where we had everything off, but it was like, you know, it had to be done. Like, I was like, I'm here in Spain. Like, I need to go see these things, and but I definitely feel like I made the experience my own. But it was also cool to interact with people who were going through a similar stage of life. Of we're all in college, we're all here studying abroad. We all have different goals for study abroad, but we're all still experiencing it in a similar way or something together. So it was a really, really, really cool experience, and you know, I'm excited to go back to Spain. Just
Fuck.
next stop, who knows? Want to go check out Australia, go back to Nepal.
Dude, Australia would be sick.
Yeah,
Australia
but I
would be
mean,
sick.
extremely grateful, extremely, you know, humbling experience, which is like,
And you earned it too, dog. don't
Appreciate it, bro.
discredit yourself. You earned it. You got to this point.
yeah,
But-
yeah.
I think we're running out of time. We've got like an hour and 30.
Whew,
No, just kidding. An hour 10. But
for sure.
I want y'all to, you know, give a special shout out to my boy.
Thanks for having
he's
me.
doing good things. He's the homie. But yeah. So as a reminder, episodes out this Sunday, every Sunday, and then clips would be out every Wednesday of the following week.
Right.
But yeah, bro. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it,
coming
bro.
out.
Thanks
This
for
was
having
fun.
me on. Yeah,
And hopefully, you know, you inspire people to go travel more
yeah, for sure. I mean,
and
go see the world.
and watch sports. Watch all types of sports. There's more sports out there than you think.
Yeah,
But-
and yeah, thanks for having
Any
me.
last remarks? Anyone you want to shout out?
No, I'm good, bro.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And yeah, keep staying in tune. We'll be posting on YouTube every Sunday, and we'll also have a new clips section. So if you check under our playlists, I do a good job of trying to separate our episodes and the types of people that we have on them based on those playlists. So I believe we have one on one-on-one discussions, special guests, LWH, and then solo podcast. And then we just added the new one, which is the clips. So go ahead and check out, you know, some of those clips. I think the only one I have up right now is for David Keenan. And if you haven't checked out that episode, I definitely recommend you check that one out. And yeah, so thank you guys once again, and I hope you guys are enjoying your lovely Sundays. All right, guys, take care. Bye.